Hi everybody. In this video for project 7 we want to do a grid of a three-dimensional cube structure rendered with a glass material. And something we'll also play with is adding another light source, and also how to do repetition in terms of copying a single cube out to, we're going to do 5 across and 5 tall. And so let's get started. Let me pull that down. Here's a version that I just created in Blender, and notice I have a spotlight against the back of our box here and a top spotlight that's casting a shadow down of the various cube elements. So let me hit escape here and also go into solid mode just to show you how this setup looks. Zoom out here. So I have a spotlight on the back wall, a rather broad one at 120 degrees, and a spotlight overhead looking down on top of this grid structure here. So that's what we're up to right now, is to create a grid and make it transparent with glass. So let's get started. So I'm going to go File, New, reload Startup File, and go out to the back, the beginning here. So let's build off of the original cube. Hit number 1 to give us our front perspective, and then number 5, this is on your number pad, to give us a front ortho view. And now I'm going to hit Shift D and the letter X. So Shift D, X, and then drag your mouse and pull the cube out 1 Blender unit. That's 1 square here. And if I hit Shift R, I can repeat that action. Shift R, Shift R. So there's 5 of them. And great. So now I'm going to select all of these guys by holding Shift and right-clicking on them. And let's pan over here by holding down Shift and the middle mouse button. And now I'm going to hit number 3 to see the left point of view, or I'm sorry, right ortho point of view. And let's do Shift D, Y this time. Shift D for the Y axis, and pull it out 1 Blender unit. Okay, so just you can see that copied all 5 cubes at once. And then hit Shift R, R, R. And now we have 25 cubes. Pan over. You see? Okay. Great. So let me hit letter A. So actually, it's going to be easier to select all with the letter A, but I don't want to copy the camera or the lamp, so I'm going to delete those right now by hitting the letter X or the delete key. Right click, delete key, and then get rid of those. And now I can hit A to select everything, and Shift D, Z, and that'll pull that whole group up 1 Blender unit. And then I can repeat that with a Shift R, Shift R, Shift R. Okay, so how to get 125 cubes all at the same time. If I hit the letter A twice, I can deselect first that first group, then select everything. Actually, what I did is hit A again and just select one, and then I'm going to hit A again. The reason I did that is I needed to bring back the full menu here for my materials. So now I'm going to click this orb, and I'm noticing we're in Blender Render at the top, so I want to go to Cycles Render, then Material, Use Nodes, click Diffuse and make that glass. And I'll leave it the color, maybe I'll give it the slightest, tiniest amount of green in there, leaving the refractive index alone at 1.4. Good. So next, let me deselect everything and hit number 1, left click to bring my 3D cursor down below and add a plane in here. Shift A, Mesh Plane, and I want to scale it 20. So I'm going to hit the letter S and then the number 20. Enter to set that, and then we're going to zoom out and raise these back 2 edges. So I want to tab into object mode from, into edit mode from object mode, and hit letter A to deselect. Now choose the edge selection down on these 3 buttons. You have vertex selection, edge, and face. So choose the edge selection. Right click on the back edge, hold shift, right click on this edge, zoom out a bit, and now we want to extrude these edges on the Z axis. So I want to hit E, the letter Z, and just pull with your mouse to bring that up. Excellent. So now we have our photo cube and our collection of 125 cubes. So let's see. Now it's time to deal with lighting again. So I'm going to, let's see, left click, put my 3D cursor. Let's see if I hit number 1, that'll help, and number 3. Okay. Shift A. Add, oops. Okay, before I add the lamp, I have to go back into object mode here, and then Shift A, and add a lamp down here, and I want to add a spot lamp. And let's move this into position, and want to rotate it so it's the cone is projecting on the back wall here. So I want to hit R, and then just rotate that up and move this basically 3. So I'm just playing with rotating it. Over on the spot shape, you see where it says size 45 degrees. I'm going to make that 120 because I want it to splash the whole back wall with the light. I'm going to give it a little color here, so I'm going to add a little blue and just see what we have so far. Let's see, the spotlight, the strength, also bring that up maybe to 4,000 to start. Enter. And down next to object mode, I'm going to go into rendered for the viewport shading and see how that's shaping up. Let's take that up to 6,000 or even 15,000. Oops. Okay, Good. So let's add a main light now. That's our splash sort of accent lighting. So go back to solid mode and left click to set your 3D cursor, Shift A, lamp, and maybe a sun. And I'm just orbiting around to get that positioned over the set here. Okay. Strength. I'm trying to think what I would like. Let's see, about 10. And I'm going to leave the size at 0.1 for the moment, and let's see what that looks like in a rendered viewport shading. Strength is too much. There's 5. Okay, there's 2.5, and that's looking pretty good. Great, now let's set up the camera. We have to add a camera again and set it up, and then we're ready to start thinking about a render here. So I'm going back into solid mode, and let me throw a camera in here, left click, Shift A, camera. And let's see where it is. So I need to rotate it. So I hit the letter R. Up, and I've got a sort of a mini problem, so I have to rotate it from this perspective as well. Let me zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. R. And now I'm going to hit numpad 0 to see where the camera is, and then I need to lock the camera and the viewport together. So I hit letter N and click lock camera to view. That way, as I pan and zoom, and hit N again to get rid of that menu. As I pan and zoom, now the camera is actually working nicely. So Shift to pan, zoom out a little bit. Also, I'm going to click the camera up here for my rendered settings and change the perspective of this window. So I'm going to dial it back this way, my Y that way, and get more of a square format. And let's see here. Zoom in and check out how it's starting to shape up here with the rendered viewport setting. Trying to decide about how much light I want on the background. And let's zooming around here a little bit. It's kind of cool. So let's set up our samples and prepare to render this. So I'm going to toggle open the sampling window here and bring the rendered samples up to 250. Hit enter, and because of these little white specks that are starting to preview in here, I know because of all the glass that if I set clamp indirect to 1, that it'll get rid of those fireflies, those little white speckles during the final render. World is a little boring with that gray, so let me check out making it black. So I click that orb, or go in the opposite direction. Let me see. Create more light. I'm not sure I like that either. Just bringing it down to a little bit darker charcoal gray. And So play with your lights and play with the settings a bit. See what works for you. Think about how much you want to zoom as well. And let's see here. It'd be nice to get a shadow cast on the floor of this plane as well. So instead of a sun, maybe I should go to a spot there. I'm going to pause this for a second. So I scroll down through here. I've got all these cubes, and I found my sunlight again. And I'm going to click this and then go into Spotlight and Strength. Let's put that up to 10,000. Because the lamp is fairly far away, let's see, we need more power, and I need to dial up the diameter of the cone here. So there's that. So now we're getting a nice, pretty interesting shadow down here. If I dial up the size here, the shadow, well, it depends on how you feel. I guess we could leave it that way. So let me take the strength up a little bit more, 20,000. 40,000. Okay, I think I've been playing with this enough, and I'm just going to move in for a final render now. So I'm going to hit F12, and then I'll pause the video while that renders. Okay, that took about 5 minutes 40 seconds, so just explore using 2 light sources, playing around with shadows and light cones and materials, and rotate your object around and look at a few different points of view with it, and save your images. Hit F3, and oops. Save it as a ping, please. Cancel that. I hit F2 instead. Here we go. And this is Project 7. And save it as a ping and post it into your Google Drive with some variations of point of view, maybe some lighting variations, and so on. Good. See you in the next video.